you're gonna look back on history. He's gonna be one of those guys that we already are, but like really that in the history books, we're gonna look back and say he pushed society forward.
Yeah.
Or you trying to?
Absolutely. I'm still wrestling with after reading the book. It's just he was so wild as far as he pushed so hard for made up deadlines.
Yeah.
Pushed the team so hard, created such an extreme work environment to get things done. In one sense, you look at it and say, that's not good. But in another sense, you can say his results speak for himself. So that's another takeaway. That's just he was so extreme as far as work ethic and all the crazy seasons he would go through to get things done.
For those of us that aren't complete lunatics, you don't want to treat people like that all. And we're not trying to send people to Mars and all those things. Create change industry. Yeah, change in industry. But I think there's something to be said for we could all have an enhanced sense of urgency in our business sometimes.
Welcome to Making Sparks, the podcast where we ignite your passion for metal fabrication and fuel your business success. Join industry leaders and dive deep into the world of metalworking. From business insights to tips of the trade, Making Sparks is your forge of knowledge. During each episode, discover success stories, innovative solutions, and expert interviews that light the path to business growth. Subscribe today and grow and improve your company, and let's make sparks fly together.
I'm going to do an intro, and I didn't mess it up earlier, so I'm going to try to go for 2 for 2 today and not mess it up. But for some reason, just actually saying something kind of rehearsed messes me up. So we'll see how it goes. And how these go is Matthew basically will ask you lots of questions, and then I'll listen and then try to talk because I like to talk. So we'll see if I can fit myself in there.
We'll see if Casey can think of any worthwhile questions to ask.
I'm not very good at it.
You asked most of the questions on the last episode. But
Did I?
It was marketing related.
Well, I always think, so you'll go in and like you'll talk like equipment stuff. I don't know anything about that. And then I just think about people listening, and I'm like, well, they probably want to know how to grow their business. So then I try to throw in one question about that, and then 2, and then 3. So, all right, here we go. Welcome back to Making Sparks. I'm your host, Casey Voelker, sitting in the beautiful Fabrication content studio. Next to me with, see, I messed up. I was trying to be cool and throw something else in there.
I liked it.
Yeah.
Try it again.
You want to try again? 2 for 2. All right. Welcome back to Making Sparks. I'm your host, Casey Voelker, sitting in the beautiful Captivated Content studio. Next to me is my co-host, Matthew Nix, who rents me this studio. And I'm going to let him introduce our guest.
I rent the studio to us, not to you.
That's true. Yeah. Just so you guys know, he's kicking me out. He literally told me this 2 days ago.
I'm moving you into a bigger space.
More collaboration with other team members. I get it. Okay. I get it.
All right. Well, thanks for being here again. It only took Casey two tries to get the intro done, so that's pretty good.
Who is it?
Pretty good. Yeah, we've got Noah Dell with us this morning, and really excited to have Noah on. Got to know Noah over the last couple of years. I think I'm trying to remember. I think we connected on LinkedIn, and then ended up our paths crossed on some projects that our companies even collaborated on. So that's right. My recollection, anyways. Noah, you can correct me if
that's right. Yeah. I actually happened to hear you on the Making Chips podcast.
There we go.
You were a guest on there,
and I remember,
yeah. So I reached out to you out of the blue on LinkedIn, and we were able to connect and came down to your shop there, and you guys helped us out with a job we had kind of down in your neck of the woods, and it's been fun to see the progress that you've made in those last couple of years, and looking forward to the conversation today.
Yeah, I'm glad that you remembered that and brought that up, that our connection did come from. So I was a guest on the Making Chips podcast. And of course, if you've listened to us before, you know we are now a sort of a sister podcast and under the Making Chips umbrella. And that's Making Sparks was a spinoff. We actually just went out on our own feed, I guess you call it. So we're moving out of the incubator from Making Chips and out of the nest and out on our own. We're still part of the Making Chips brand umbrella, but so hopefully people migrate over to listen to us on our own feed now. Good on you for reaching out, Noah. I'm so glad that you did, and I've really enjoyed getting to know you and just love making more connections. So I just want to use that as a plug right now to other people that, if you're curious at all, reach out. I mean, I don't I don't know that I have anything earth shattering to teach or share, but at a minimum, it's just good to know more people. And because I know Noah now, I might be putting one of our vice presidents of operations in a group that Noah belongs to, a structural fabricators group here in the central U.S. And so I saw on LinkedIn that Noah was involved in that, and I thought, that might be something we should get involved in. So you just never know what you're going to learn from connecting with people. So glad we did that, and glad that you're on the show. You've had a lot of exciting things going on in your business. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself, background, your business, and then where you are geographically as well.
Yeah, so I'm located in Wilmington, Ohio, which is kind of right in the triangle of Cincinnati, Dayton, and Columbus, right on the interstate there. That's so those are our main three markets as far as where we serve general contractors. Is in those three markets. Been a good market, but born and raised kind of in this area. Went away for college for a few years, but came right back. Blessed to be married to my high school sweetheart. We've been married 12 years now, and we have 6 kids. The sixth was just born almost three months ago. So definitely busy on the home front with the wife and kids, but it certainly makes it all worthwhile in that aspect of it. So yeah, that's a little bit on the personal side. I kind of realized in college that the career path for me, for better or worse, was going to be the entrepreneurial journey, and just realized that was how I was wired. So right out of college, I started an auto detailing business. It was something I had tinkered around with high school, and it was one of those things where I just wanted to work for myself, and it was easy to do and easy to start, and so I just jumped in it. So as I was doing that, again, newly married right out of college, had some part-time jobs, of course, to support the family, and one of those part-time jobs was helping my dad at the steel fab shop, Champion Bridge. And my dad, at the time, had worked for the company for over 35 years, I think. And so it was something I had always grown up with. He was always for pretty much all my life, he was a minority owner in the company. So I wasn't really involved in the day-to-day in terms of how maybe a typical second generation would be. But it was always there, always familiar with it. So, when I came in more on the office side to help him with some of my interests, was more of the finance, budgeting, marketing type stuff. So helped him with that part-time, and did that for a couple of years. And it kind of got to that crossroads where I had to decide whether I wanted to go full-time into the auto detailing and try and make a run at that, or do something different. And kind of the realization I had at the time, my dad was a minority owner. There was one other owner. He was about to retire. So the writing was on the wall that if I jumped into the steel business full time and kind of learned steel, then there was an opportunity that I could be second generation. I could take over as owner of the business, and essentially fulfill that entrepreneurial journey that I wanted to, but rather than basically start from scratch in the auto detailing, I could start with a very well established business in the commercial construction world. So that was the decision I made about 11 years ago now. And fast forward for those 11 years, it's no regrets, been a great decision. My dad just actually retired in April, so I have officially taken over as president and owner of the company here just recently. So yeah, that's where it's been so far, and certainly opened all the questions that are related to that journey.
This episode of Making Sparks is brought to you by Paperless Parts. Are you tired of the complexity that comes with quoting in manufacturing? Paperless Parts is here to help. As the #1 quoting and collaboration software for manufacturers, Paperless Parts simplifies every step of your quoting process in a single, centralized environment. With patented technology, their automated costing and pricing logic is tailored specifically to your shop, making it easier and faster to generate consistent quotes across your entire estimating team. Plus, Paperless Parts meets the rigorous standards of FedRAMP and CMMC, giving you confidence that your data is secure. By streamlining your workflow, Paperless Parts saves you time, boosts profitability, and helps you deliver an unbeatable customer experience. Ready to level up your shop's quoting process? Visit paperlessparts.com to learn more. Paperless Parts, quoting made simple, profitable, and powerful.
Well, congratulations on taking over and seeing that through to the end. That's a big step for you, I know, and that's awesome. I listened to a podcast a week or so ago, and the gentleman the host, he used a term, I've heard it before, but I don't think I really ever stopped and thought about it. He said intrapreneur. So he was talking about intrapreneur versus entrepreneur, and essentially intrapreneur is taking an established business and really, sort of reinventing it or spinning a business off outside of if you think about a large corporation, you might take one part of it and spin it off and grow it, or in your case, just entering into an established business. And that was my case as well, entering into an established business and really exercising your entrepreneurial spirit within that business, whether that's reinventing it or growing it dramatically or so forth. But we are, Noah, I guess you and I are intrapreneurs.
Right. Yes, I have heard that term, and yes, it is a good description, because yes, we didn't start our businesses from scratch, but as you know, ultimately when you get into it, whether it's from zero or whether it's from, when I came into the company, it was 140 years old, so I came into a 140-year-old business, and yet in a lot of ways, it was like a startup in terms of it was small, it was scrappy, it was a lot of challenges, a lot of obstacles to overcome, and a lot of opportunity to change the business, to grow the business, to do all those things. So yeah, but was definitely blessed to not be starting from zero, especially in a capital intensive business that's it's also again, being commercial construction with general contractors, where it's also very much a relationship business. It takes a while to form those relationships, because the contractors have a lot on the line. They don't want to get the wrong guy in there, because the job can go sour pretty quick.
Yeah, we jokingly refer to ourselves sometimes as a 100-year-old startup as well.
Yeah.
There's there's this connotation that a company that's been around forever is like big and slow and so forth. But sometimes when you're in high growth or reinventing, we just had a guest on earlier today that is head of marketing for Y-Song, which is a press brake company. They started out as shears, but they've been around since 1903. They were making mechanical shears. Now they make hydraulic shears, press brakes. They've got into lasers now, but anyways, they had to really reinvent their company a couple of times. And so just because a company's been around a long time doesn't mean that you can't exercise entrepreneurship within it. And I think that's something to point out to our listeners too, and just the general audience, that entrepreneurship doesn't mean you have to start from scratch. I mean, I think a lot of...
Or do it on your own.
That's right. Yeah. There's a lot of great success stories with people that started with something and just completely reinvented it or took it to the next level. Or like Casey said, doing it on your own, maybe partnering with an entrepreneur to realize some of that vision is what makes sense. So
yeah, I always tell people, my story was like, basically me and my wife, I had started a business. I did wedding videos and all this stuff in college, and I didn't even know I had an entrepreneurial spirit. I just always knew I don't know. I just like running the business and stuff like that. But I never wanted to start my business really full. I always had a full-time job. And me and my
never
wife,
wanted to let go of the safety net.
The safety net. And I know that, like, everybody says, well, to start your business, you have to just dive in and stuff. And I'm like, no, you don't have to. Like, you can, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I do think there was part of me that was like, man, I should really do really bad at my full-time job and get fired and get that, that how people were like, oh, I was let go. And so I started a business. Like, I thought that's what I had to do. And believe it or not, a Facebook group told me to go talk to Matthew. And instead I did that. And Matthew's like, yeah, let's partner. And I was like, all right, cool. I always tell the story is Matthew says, you partner with us, you can start tomorrow. And so I got to go start. Well, then the pandemic hit, but that's beside the point, But hey, you know what we forgot? Yeah. You guys were all talking about like dads and stuff. I forgot my dad joke.
Yeah, we have three dads of young kids on the call here. So
did you see me earlier fixing my hat? My hat's crooked.
Is this part of the joke?
No, this is literally just me being goofy. That could be the joke. That was it. I'm just kidding. Okay, here's the joke, Noah. You ready for the joke?
I'm ready.
It's a not a long one, but it's probably not going to make any sense. If your child won't eat fish, what can you replace it with?
Are we replacing the child or the fish?
That's what I'm saying. Cat. You replace the child with a cat. Cat loves fish.
Yeah, I almost got that one.
I know, you stole my joke.
That's the first one where I like get the punt.
I know you got it.
Man.
So hey, and we kind of laughed too. I thought it was gonna be a bad joke, but because Matthew got it, it's not too bad. I don't know. Anyway, there's my dad. That's my participation into this podcast. Now we'll go back to your regular scheduled interview. Go ahead, Matthew. What's up, guys? This is Casey with Making Sparks. I'm sitting here with Adam Schmidt from ProFab Alliance, and we're going to interrupt this episode to bring you your sparks of knowledge.
Hey, Casey, question. Do you ever feel like as a business owner, your business is plateaued and you really want to revitalize it with growth and continuous improvement?
Yeah, just happened this year.
Well, at ProFab Alliance, we understand these challenges that come with running a business. And that's why we're excited to introduce our peer group program. So business leaders will be paired with other like-minded leaders across the country into small groups, and each peer group is going to be led by one of our ProFab team members. Together, you'll be able to regularly meet and discuss, the challenges and kind of your best practices, or share insights that you have, with the other leaders in the business. Imagine having a support network of like-minded individuals. You run across a challenge and, who do you turn to? These peer groups allow and help facilitate that wealth of, or that knowledge transfer across, different companies. Don't let your business get stagnant and join a peer group today. You can do that by visiting profaballiance.com, either to learn more or sign up today. That's profaballiance.com, and ProFab Alliance is community consulting and franchising.
All right, so Noah recently took over Champion Bridge from his father, who was a minority owner, and I guess at some point your father bought the majority or bought the entire company. Is that right? Prior to you taking over?
Yeah, like I said, the company is 152 years old now, so it has had a long journey from started by a couple brothers to being partner owned, and then it was family owned from the 50s up into the 80s, and that family formed an ESOP, so it was employee owned for a while, and that's when my dad got his initial shares, was from the employee ownership group, and because of a small company, the ESOP was not working out well, so they decided, I believe in 1990, to end the ESOP, and at the time there were, I think, 6 shareholders that basically kept their stock, and it just so happened that my dad was the youngest of those 6, and all the rest of them retired from the company. The company retired their stock, and so where it was down to he and one other guy. That guy retired in 2016. He became sole owner with my mom there in 2016. So a wild story that. It just takes 150 years to make up. And
you don't build bridges, right?
Yes, that's right. Yes, I don't build bridges. Like I said, that's what they started with back in the 1870s, and we're very accomplished bridge builders, and we still have bridges standing today, all up and down the East Coast, really down to Florida. And we get calls, emails all the time wanting to know if we have information on an old bridge that's still standing from 1900 or whatever. So it's a very, very neat history there. But yeah, let's say starting in the Great Depression, they kind of started going away from bridges and into more structural steel, other miscellaneous ironworks, that kind of thing. And a big customer back in the 70s and 80s was Armco. They kind of helped with the pre-engineered buildings that Armco was kind of pioneers in, and so we did a lot of that work in the 80s, 90s, and really since the 90s has been all structural steel for general contractors, again in that Cincinnati, Dayton, Columbus market. So that's been our bread and butter, and don't do any bridges anymore. But I made a push to change the name around the 150th anniversary because I thought it was time for an update, but I lost that debate, so I think it's going to stick for another 150 years. We'll just keep explaining that we don't build bridges.
You'll just have to lean into the irony of your name and that you don't.
Yes, it makes for a good story. Yep, good conversation piece.
I see some good marketing pieces there, man.
Casey's right. Wheels are turning
you
about
may think
all
we
the.
Build bridges. We don't build bridges, and then you go into what you actually do. You could be standing on a bridge. We built this bridge 100 years ago. We don't build bridges anymore. and then you go and still. You get their attention. It's like bait and switch almost, you know?
Yep, exactly. So
Yeah. So what kind of changes have you been making since you took over the business? I'm sure you had things that you were chomping at the bit to implement coming in the new generation. And what have you implemented? What have you wanted to but haven't been able to, maybe? And then, where have you seen pushback or haven't been able to get some of those things done?
Yep, sure. Yeah, I mean, so thankfully it was not a stark transition in terms of a big leadership change or anything like that, because my dad was always he was a technician in the business, right? And that was his role. He started as a draftsman back in the 70s, and he was very much an expert at the structural steel fabrication process, but actually running a business was never. Again, he kind of fell into it in a sense. So that was never his passion, his main thing. So he was, from the time I got in the business, I was very involved in that process. So by the time he retired, it was a pretty smooth transition. So there was no drastic changes that I needed to make or had to make when he left. But of course, with that said, we have been continuing to make changes to try and grow. And a big one is, the old shop that we're in. We built it in 1893, and I've continued to think for years on how to utilize the space the best we can, and making some big changes this year on how we're utilizing that space, including buying a new piece of equipment that was actually just installed last week. So installed a big robotic arm. It's called a Python. I'm sure people in our industry are familiar with it, and it's a game changer as far as being able to process material. So we just implemented that, just installed it. That required a lot of changes to the shop. So those have all been good things. We have been hiring some people again to help run that machine, and in the office as well to help spread my workloads. I've been in the weeds myself with project managing and that kind of stuff. So getting more people on to help train with that and all those good things. So yeah, it's been it's a lot of changes have happened this year, but in a way they've been a long time coming. So yeah, it's been good.
So you just put a new Python beam line in? Is that what I heard?
Yep.
Is that the first CNC beam line you've had?
It is. Yeah.
So that's
really
a big change.
Yes, first major piece of capital we've purchased in decades, 0 to 100 in that degree. But yeah, it's very, very exciting. It's fun to see it installed now and running pieces. And like I said, the technology is amazing. It can do in 15 minutes what it would take a fabricator an hour and a half to do.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
pretty big advances there.
For any listeners that aren't in structural fab, maybe just explain briefly what this piece of equipment is. We have a similar piece at our structural shop as well, but
really, in simple terms, it's a plasma torch that's hooked up to a robotic arm, and that robotic arm can reach all around a piece. So whether it's a column for a building or a beam for that building, it can measure that piece and bring that piece in, and that plasma torch that's connected to that robot, it can put holes in the pieces. It can do copes, or can cut the piece on a miter. It can even do layout marks. So if you need to weld something to that piece, it can do a little etch in that piece, and that then the fabricators can find that etch and lay their piece in it and weld around it and go on down the road. So yeah, so in one sense, very simple. Like I said, robotic arm on a plasma torch, but it's very, very powerful and complex at the same time.
Yeah. So cutting to length, coping, beveling, putting holes in the part, etching the part for piece marks. We're doing all that with one machine now, where you would have had multiple manual processes to accomplish that.
Yep, exactly.
How did you go about researching for that piece of equipment? Like, did you did you do research? Did you go to FabTech? Did you go to a conference or anything like that?
I know a lot of people that have this piece of equipment as well as others, so I did a lot of market research in terms of talking to other fabricators. Again, we've talked about just having relationships with people like Matthew. I'm familiar with the machine that they have, and I heard good things about their machine, and so we did research on that, and then again talked to other fabricators in the industry. again, everyone was very, very open and very willing to share that kind of information. So that was very helpful. Also going to trade shows like FabTech, or also, we're part of the American Institute for Steel Construction, and they have a big steel conference every year. So they have a lot of vendors and everyone that come to that steel conference. So saw that machine and several others kind of working the floor at that conference. So that was a good opportunity to learn those things. And then, of course, just the good old-fashioned internet searching and talking to the salesman and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, definitely a good process to go through.
I want to dive a little deeper in that. We're in the process of looking at upgrading our beam line as well. So forget about the brand for a second, the manufacturer you went with, just vetting the process. How did you land on just putting in a robotic plasma as opposed to a saw and drill? Or you're seeing now that, they've got the combo machines out there. Just walk me through your methodology. I'm very, very curious about this because we're trying to think through this right now too. I mean, there's a lot of different opinions out there about the utilization of capital and what's actually faster and so forth.
Yeah, for sure. And it is a complex decision in that regard. And, I think it really comes down to, you have to understand kind of what kind of markets you're trying to go after, and what are the typical kind of pieces that you're running. So for instance, if you're in very heavy fabrication and doing large buildings that have very large columns with very thick flanges and very, very deep beams and that kind of stuff, then you're going to see pretty quick that the advantages of a drill line are going to be pretty substantial, because with any kind of plasma torch, I think we can pierce, I want to say up to 1.5 inches thick. And it can do it. We actually just ran some columns for a nice hospital last week that had over 1 inch thick flange, and the plasma torch can do that, but it's definitely it takes a lot of power to burn that kind of thick material, and the consumables eats up a lot of consumables, and so it's the kind of thing, if you were doing that kind of thing every single day, then the advantages of a drill line or a milling type process are probably gonna maybe outweigh a plasma. But for us, that's we're a smaller fabricator, and we're doing smaller structures, so we don't end up with that large of pieces that often. So the plasma can handle 95+% of what we're doing every day, no problem, with a lot of quick ease. But really, one of the big things that came down to for us too is just physical limitations, right? So you can get a saw, you can get a coper, you can get a drill line, but if you don't have the space for all of those things, then you're in trouble. So having all those capabilities in the one plasma machine was really honestly the only option for us right now. It was just we couldn't put on all the other things. So those limitations are obviously big factors that people have to weigh. But then the other thing again is just what kind of material you're running and what kind of stuff you're going after.
For sure. No, that's helpful. We run, as you know, we run Dado, however you say it, Japanese equipment. It's been great. It's been installed in the shop. We acquired the shop. It's been installed since one piece in 04 and one piece in 07 or 08. And so we're looking at upgrading. So we currently have a drill saw tandem combo, and then sitting next to that is our coping robot. And so that's separate processes. We are looking at, primarily for the same reason you mentioned, we're looking at, when we upgrade, going to one machine, and the new Dado machine is the coping robot and the drill. And so there's no longer a saw. The technology on the plasma robots like you have has come so far now that we're cutting the length. And our robot, it has a lot of limitations on the axis and the reach that it has compared to like the one that you just put in. And so we're looking at a machine where we're going to cut to length with the plasma torch and then still have the drill feature. So we could choose to burn holes, we could choose to drill depending on, like you said, the thickness or the complexity of the part. So the advantage now is we're going to go from two machines to one from a physical floor space. But one of my concerns then is now you have no redundancy.
Right.
So if it goes down, it goes down.
Yep.
So that's something we're thinking through, as well. I'm curious, are you cutting everything to length with the Python now, or are you still sawing or?
Yep. So yeah, historically we've relied on service centers to cut the length for us with their saws, bring it to us already cut to length.
Yeah.
So now that we do have the Python, we will have the capability of cutting to length ourselves. And yes, I think I won't say we'll do it 100%. We'll still probably get some stuff cut to length when it makes sense, but we will be doing a lot of cutting with the Python as well. Yeah, but like I said, you're right as far as having it all in one machine. That does open you up to that level of risk of the machine being down, or even just if it's regular service, right? You're down. And again, that kind of comes to what's the goal for the ultimate, tonnage that you're wanting to put through the shop or that kind of thing, right? I know a lot of people who are putting through megatons, and they've got a plasma as well as a drill line as well as the saws and all that kind of stuff. But obviously they're putting through a lot of tons to afford all those things. So yeah, you just gotta decide what your niche is, what your size is, and what physical limitations you have with the space, and make the best of it. Right? That's what we do.
Yeah. And like you said, you can still lean on the service centers if you get in a pinch and you need to.
Yeah, and again, in our industry, I can't be complimentary enough of just how cooperative people are. For instance, this hospital I'm running right now, I knew my Python would not be installed in time to run the whole job, so there's a fabricator that's a little bit closer to the job that also has a Python. So he's helping me run some beams. So if you do, have
we
a
do
machine
that
go
all
down
the time
or
too.
you need help, it really is great that we're all willing to help each other out with the ebbs and flow of the work.
Yeah, we're all better for it. There's times where we run steel for other fabricators, and then there's times that we the machine goes down or we bite off more work than we can chew, and we need to lean on other folks to help us run that as well.
Yep, for sure.
So what are some new things you're working on besides the Python? Any processes or technology or anything else that you're excited about or you're working on?
Yeah, processes is always a challenge for a small business, because you need processes to be efficient, but you also need people to implement those processes, and it's always a tug of war and a challenge to get enough of the right people to help develop those things. So, we use a fabrication software called Tekla Power Fab, and they have some functionalities that you can put on iPads out in the shop to kind of track production and quality and that good stuff. And so that's an initiative we're gung ho on right now, is trying to get that software out on the shop floor so we can be tracking production in real time. It's one of those things. It's a simple thing, but yet way too complicated and way too hard. So
we just went through it about, I don't know, a year or two ago. We just went through that exact same process. So we have all our fabricators have iPads now. We're finally 100% paperless. It's awesome, but yeah, like you said, it's not as easy as just buying iPads and flipping a switch.
Yep, exactly. So so we're definitely in the middle of that, and that having that technology goes a long way to having those processes, because you can develop a great process, but if it's very time consuming and paper oriented and not real time, then it becomes very cumbersome to keep up. And when it's cumbersome to keep up and you don't have the manpower, it falls by the wayside, and then you're stuck with no processes and with relying on people to get it done. And so we're certainly fighting that uphill battle of trying to overcome that and get those things implemented. So that's certainly a big part of it. I mentioned, along with getting the machine installed, we're kind of flipping our shop. So we're moving our paint area, moving fabricators, installing some new jib cranes, all that kind of stuff. So that's a big thing we're working on this quarter, and really throughout the end of the year. And then of course already working on what are the goals for next year? What's that next piece of equipment that's going to become the bottleneck? Or whether it's the paint area or whatever, right? There's anytime you solve one bottleneck, another one's going to come up, and so we're certainly in the growth mindset. In the last 6 years, we've about tripled production over the last 6 years, and the goal is to probably double it again in the next 3 years. Again, the biggest limitation we're fighting is the size of the shop, but that's what we're working on, is trying to maximize it the best we can and implement the technology that will help us do it. And so it's fun times, but also challenging to double in that short amount of time.
What do you think the biggest limitation around that's going to be? Is it the shop space? Is it manpower?
I mean, it's right. It's always people.
Yeah.
It's always people, getting the right people in the right seats. It's people are always I think the biggest challenge to growth, and the biggest challenge to doing it well. So, it seems like right now we're trying to hire a couple people in the shop, and from the initial applications and stuff we're getting in our experience, it does seem like the market's loosened up a little bit as far as there's more people out there interested in working. So we're encouraged by that. Hoping we can get a couple good people on board. But it's still a challenge, especially in the office with I've been looking for experienced project managers in kind of the construction industry, and that is in very short supply. The wages keep increasing, and the supply is not, at least not here in the short term. So that's continuing to be a challenge. Hoping to hire really 2 more project managers in the next year or 2, and I know that'll be a big limitation to be able to find those people and get them on board. And then yes, like I said, we do have limitations with the shop, so I think we can help ourselves and maximize it. I said I think we can still double our capacity with where we're at, but we'll be busting at the seams for sure.
How many team members do you guys have?
We're at 20 right now.
Cool. That's a nice size. I'd say that's a very, very average size fab shop. So you should be very relatable to a lot of folks. That's, about the exact same size as our structural shop as well. Very relatable. A couple more questions. Well, one quick comment. You talked about the labor. We've noticed it soften a little bit too. I'm not sure what to make of that either. Like, is that a sign of the broader economy? Which, if so, that kind of worries me a little bit. Or is it people have just sort of burned through all the stimulus money and all the COVID sort of
What does
crazy.
soften mean when you say it's softened a little bit?
Well, the labor market's not as tight. We're seeing more inflow of applications. More people are looking for jobs, basically, is what we're saying. It was just so tight for so long. I mean, there was just no supply of
Was that because
labor.
people didn't want to work, or was that because people were actually just staying at their jobs? Or
No, I mean, people were moving around a lot, but either just, a lot of people left the workforce for one, and we're fighting that all the time just from a generational demographic standpoint. I mean, there's more folks leaving the industry than what's coming in. I mean, that's just a simple math equation. But from a micro level or a shorter term level, I mean, we are seeing, I'm hearing a lot of people say the same thing Noah said, is that it seems like the labor market has softened up a little bit. There's more people out looking for jobs, and like you said, Casey, maybe they're just more open to making a change right now. I don't know what to make of it, but it's an interesting stat to keep for all of us to keep our eye on, I think, is really all I'm saying. And then my question is, what you talk about doubling your business in the next 2 or 3 years, so that makes me think you're doing some degree of planning, I suppose. So what is your planning process looks like? I mean, you're not going to just wake up and double your business. You bought a machine, but is there a specific planning process that you guys utilize as an organization, and what does that look like?
I'd say if we follow a business system at all, it's Traction by Gino Wickman.
The EOS.
Can't recommend. Yes, EOS.
Yep.
The EOS system, entrepreneurial operating system, which he wrote in the book called Traction, by Gino Wickman. Yeah, can't recommend anything he writes enough. And so we have a 3-year picture, we have 10-year targets, we have kind of a 1-year plan, and so we're meeting regularly to talk about the business issues every week, and then we also meet my leadership team and I meet offsite once a quarter to talk about those things, right? Talk about the top issues that are in the way from achieving what we want to achieve, and so that's kind of the systematic approach that we use is EOS to kind of just keep that meeting rhythm and keep those goals and targets in front of us, and the rocks that we have for the quarter, the goals we have for the quarter. So we use that system, but then beyond that, like I said, it's just it's constantly be vigilant to what are the top issues in terms of what are the bottlenecks, and what are the people issues that we need to be tackling to move in the right direction. And it's not a straight line for sure, but I said it's a fun process.
He wrote another good one that's connected to traction called Rocket Fuel. So just for any of our listeners that might be interested, Rocket Fuel really talks about the correlation between the visionary, what they call the visionary, and help me out here, Noah. It's the is it the implementer? Integrator. Yeah. I couldn't think of that. The visionary and the integrator, and so you have to have both components of that, and those two people together are what he refers to as rocket fuel. And so that was a really interesting breakthrough for us as well. And so, yeah, I just thought I would share that one too. But yeah, all of his stuff is really good.
I've got a general manager who's my integrator, and I'm the visionary. And it couldn't do it without him. It absolutely is. Both roles are necessary, and it's very rare to find both capabilities in one person. And there's a lot of benefit to having it in two people. So. I said when my dad was still in the business, I called us a three-headed monster that kind of ran the business, and now it's a two-headed monster, and it's two heads are still better than one.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Casey, you got any
I've been
additional
listening.
questions?
I'm just listening. You guys are doing great.
Well, we didn't get into a bunch of marketing stuff.
No, but I was listening. I do like that. Noah mentioned that he had more like a finance and marketing and more like business side background. And he came in, and your dad was more like the doer, right? He understood he worked in the business, right? And I just thought that was interesting, like to see. We've had a few guests like that where you have some people like Matthew who grew up in the shop and then has now become more of an office guy. You sound like you were almost always an office guy, right, Noah? And I think it's interesting, like to hear that perspective, and that that you have to have your general manager and your other guys to keep the business running.
Yeah, another great book reference is The E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Yeah,
he says every business, right, they got the technicians, got the managers, and got the entrepreneur, and every business has those three functions. Even if it's a one-person business, they're fulfilling all three of those functions to some degree. Right. And Champion Bridge, with it being as old a business it is, I'd say it was pretty much always run by technicians by and large. So that's why it's stayed a small, consistent business. Is just a lot of good technicians doing good work that customers can trust, and you just rinse and repeat for 150 years. But it's never really had that entrepreneur role, anyone fill it. So I saw that opportunity to come in and help my dad as a technician. Or he being the technician, I saw the opportunity to come in and kind of help him from the entrepreneurial standpoint. And I said that's why we've had the growth we've had in the last 5-6 years, and why I think we can continue to grow here in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been great. Been a great talk. You've answered all the questions I have. Anything you want to leave our listeners with? And a lot of our listeners are everything from shop floor leaders, aspiring leaders, all the way to the CEO, and anything that's on your mind, or that takeaways that you would like to share.
For one, I said one takeaway for sure is absolutely plug into the network that's available in your industry or whatever. So whether it's ProFab Alliance or whether it's AISC or just anything, right? There's a lot of opportunities to get involved with people in the industry, and it makes all the world of difference knowing that you're not alone. There's other people facing the same thing. A lot of knowledge to be learned from other people in the industry. So certainly plug in somewhere somehow. I said reach out to me directly, just like I did with Matthew when he was on the Making Chips podcast. I'm on LinkedIn, so certainly send me a message, anything there. Plug in, that makes a big difference. And yeah, beyond that, I said you never stop learning, whether it's from other people or whether it's from all the books and resources and everything that's out there. I know, Matthew, you're a voracious reader, and I am as well, going through at least a couple books a month and always learning something new, and it makes a huge difference.
Do you read the books or do you listen to the books?
I do both. So it varies. Sometimes I'm half and half reading, half audio. Right now I'm probably more 2/3 audio and a third reading, but
I like
all depends on.
Because I can listen at like 2 times speed. It fits my brain a little bit better. When I read, I'm a slow reader, man, but I can hear really fast.
I do both. I listen and read as well. I usually have one at home that I'm reading and one that I'm listening to in the car at the same time. So what are you reading or listening to right now that that you want to share?
One I just listened to, again, this is great to do with audio, is the Elon Musk biography.
Oh my gosh, I just
And,
finished it too. Me and you are. It's so funny how many books we have shared with each other that.
That's the one he wasn't a
Right.
part of, though, right? Is it the one that?
Walter Isaacson wrote it about him. Walter Isaacson also did the Steve Jobs biography and probably a few other he's a big time biographer, but yeah, and it's so long. It's like 80 hours or something. I don't remember. It's
I would never get through it if I tried to read it, but audiobook was great, right? 1.5 speed, get through it. And just
So
a
what
lot
was
of
your
great
biggest
things.
takeaway from the Elon Musk book, or a
You know,
couple takeaways? I have a couple big ones.
For one, if there's any guy that deserves to be the richest person in the world, it's him, right? And it's just incredible how much he's accomplished. It's just, incredible.
He's lunatic. I mean, you have to be.
Yeah.
I say that with as much admiration as possible. I wouldn't trade places with him for a second. He's
Exactly.
You're gonna look back on history. He's gonna be one of those guys that we already are, but like really, that in the history books, we are gonna look back and say he pushed society forward.
Yeah.
Are you trying to?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing I'm still wrestling with after reading the book is just, he was so wild as far as he pushed so hard for made up deadlines, right? And just pushed the team so hard, created such an extreme work environment to get things done. And it's in one sense you look at it and say, that's not good, but in another sense you can say his results speak for himself. So that's another takeaway. That's just he was so extreme as far as work ethic and all the crazy seasons he would go through to get things done. It was pretty wild,
for sure. Yeah, I'm wrestled with that too, Noah. I think for those of us that aren't complete lunatics, you don't want to treat people like that all the time. And we're not trying to send people to Mars and all those create
Changing industry.
Changing industry. But there, I think there's something to be said for some of the urgency. We could all have an enhanced sense of urgency in our business sometimes. But what the couple of the biggest takeaways I had from it were, one, he would demand, if there was a policy, any kind of bureaucracy policy, even a law, he would demand the person tell him the name of whoever wrote the rule or the law and why. And so it didn't mean that he wouldn't adhere to it, but if we are going to adhere to it, I want to know who wrote it. It can't just be they. Like there's no they said this or they said that. So that was huge, and I've already utilized that in a real life scenario in our business, and got some good results from it. I was told something was going to take 30 days because they said so, and I said, well, find out who they are. I want to know their name, and I want a scientific reason for why it's going to take 30 days. It was an environmental. We were buying a piece of property, and we had to get an environmental study done on it, and it was going to take 30 days to get the results. And well, lo and behold, a couple days later, I found out for so many $1,000 we could expedite it for 10 days. So it was not a scientific reason for it to take 30 days. So now we can make a business decision, right? And then the next takeaway was his insistence on, he called it delete, delete, delete. And that was basically simplify, simplify, simplify. And he said, if we don't add back 10% of what we took away, we didn't take away enough. So that was his concept that he just preached constantly about simplifying, whether it's the SpaceX rocket or the Tesla car. So delete, delete, delete. That was his big thing. So those are my two big takeaways from the book. Highly recommended, of course.
Yeah. Yep. Those are great takeaways. Yeah. Then maybe a couple more references that are probably a little bit more industry specific. Anyone that's in kind of manufacturing in general, certainly read Ellie Goldrat's The Goal.
Yeah.
And that kind of the theory of constraints and bottleneck. Certainly read that. But then also his daughter actually just wrote a new book here last year, picking up on some of his work specifically on project-based work and project management. Ellie Goldrat took the theory of constraints and applied it to projects, and he called that book Critical Chain and the critical chain management. And That book was a good book, but it was lacking, and he recognized that it was lacking. So he wanted to come back and rewrite the book, and he passed away before he had the chance to do so. But his daughter, who he had been working with before he passed, decided to take it up during COVID and rewrite the book for him. And that book is called Goldrat's Rules of Flow, and it takes the theory of constraints and applies it to project-based work. And it was a game changer for us as far as thinking through how to make sure that the projects are not getting bottlenecked. So yeah, highly recommend that book.
Thanks for sharing that.
Very applicable to,
yeah. I'm familiar with the goal, but I didn't know about that one. That may be the biggest thing from this episode here, is sharing that with our listeners, because most of us are in project-based work, right? And that was the pushback a lot of people had around the goal or anything when it comes to, that sort of lean and flow and all that. Was, people tend to say, well, that works for those people, but it doesn't work for us. And
right.
Well, there's certainly aspects of it that are applicable. And so, yeah, I'm glad to know that's out there.
It's one thing to make one widget over and over again, and theory of constraints is great for understanding that, the bottleneck, but it does throw a monkey wrench when it's project-based work. And how do you tackle that?
Yeah.
And this book hit it head on, and very simple, straightforward, written in the same style that Goldrat wrote the goal, and a lot of good lessons from it. So check that one out.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that. Well, It's been awesome. Thanks for being on here with us. I think it's going to be a great and very relevant episode.
Yeah, no, appreciate you asking. It's always good to sit down and chat.
Yeah, so connect with Noah. It's spelled just like it sounds. Dell is just like the computer. Connect with him on LinkedIn. Reach out to us. Casey and I'd love to hear from you too. What do they need to do? Rate, review,
refer. Basically, share this episode, and tell people about us. And if there's any good guests, obviously have them reach out to us.
Noah, do you know how we close out the show? Yeah, sometimes we forget to close it out.
Oh, there you go. That's why I forget.
So basically, we always say, if you're not making sparks, you're not making
money.
So there you go.
if your Python's not making sparks, then you're not making money.
That's right. Keep the sparks flying.
Well, thanks for being on here with us, Noah.
All right. Yep. Thank you.